Well, hello, it's me again. I told you hadn't heard the last of me, didn't I? Well, basically this video that I'm recording now, I'm going to explain basically the differences between the neurotypical way of doing things and the autistic way of doing things. Well, as you all know, only about 1% of the population is on the autistic spectrum. I'm one of those 1% who are. Been diagnosed with high functioning autism when I was 9 years old. And of course, because of my autism, I've always found the world a very confusing place. I mean, most neurotypical people find the world a confusing place. But for someone like me with high functioning autism, the world is 10 times as confusing. I mean, really? Oh, yeah. So, you know, it's 10 times as confusing. I mean, a lot of the time, I don't understand why neurotypical people sort of act how they do. I mean, of course, they don't understand, you know, why people with autism do what they do, but how do they think we feel? I mean, we're the ones who have autism, and of course, we find it even more difficult to understand why people who are neurotypical do what they do. Like, for example, one thing I'm not very good at, and I never have been, is making small talk with people. I mean, polite conversation isn't one of my strong points. I mean, I am better at polite conversation than I was when I was younger, but it's still not one of my strong points. Like making small talk, that's never been one of my strong points either. So, you know, like for example, when I watched a program about Sainsbury's a few days ago, and one person bought loads of, well, legs of lamb when they were on offer, which loads of people would have done, and the cashier just sort of said, "Oh, is there a national lamb shortage or something?" And I thought, why would she say that? Because it's that person's choice. If they're not doing anything wrong by buying all that lamb, they're just taking advantage of a special offer. But, well, that's the neurotypical way of doing things, isn't it? That's making small talk with people. I mean, she probably didn't mean anything by it, what she said. So I thought, well, why say it then? But you see, you know, that's how autistic people think. They don't think the same way as people who are, well, I'll call them neurotypical. I mean, people who don't have autism or not on the autistic spectrum. That's 99% of people are neurotypical. 99 times as many as who have autism. So they outnumber us 99 to 1. So I think that's the main reason why neurotypical people don't understand autism fully, because it's not very common. But autistic people, even though they're in the minority, and neurotypical people are in the vast majority, autistic people find neurotypical people even harder to understand. Yes. I mean, of course, people laugh comments off like that, but I don't. I just, you know, I would have just said something. I would have just said, "Excuse me, it's up to me how much of this I buy. I'm not doing anything wrong." I mean, of course, the woman would have probably been taken aback by my bluntness, like. But that's the thing about people on the autistic spectrum. They're often very blunt, which may catch a lot of people by surprise. Unless, of course, if that person was to know the autistic person, then they'd know about all their bluntness and all that. But, you know, or for example, you know, I mean, I mean, of course, I do have a very good sense of humour, you know. I probably find things funny that a lot of other people don't. But, you know, sometimes, you know, of course, you know, people have different senses of humour. What one person finds funny, another person won't. Like, so, you know. Because, I mean, people say that I should be happy, like, if people make comments like that about me. Because, you know, it means that they're, like, showing an interest or trying to make small talk with me. Which, yeah, is all well and good. I mean, there are some people out there who are really nice and friendly who will try and make small talk with people even if they don't know them. But making small talk with people has never been one of my strong points, even with people who I know really well. You know, it's not something I do. It's not something I engage in really. I mean, of course, I don't have many friends anyway. I never have done. I've always been on my own. I've always been a bit of a loner really because of my high functioning autism. It means that I'm a loner and I prefer my own company to that of other people. But you know, of course, another thing I used to struggle with in the past was, well, up until I was a teenager, I used to lack empathy. You know, the ability to sort of put yourself in the other person's shoes. Basically, I came across as being a bit cold and aloof because of that. But of course, when I moved to Ashley in Newcastle, where I lived for just under a year and a half with other people with their Asperger's and autism, I actually started to empathise with people more. And it said that I developed a sense of empathy that it found difficult to imagine before, which I did. And I can put myself in other people's shoes a lot better than I could before. And of course, another way in which I've come along, I have got a much better sense of humour than I had. Although, of course, engaging in small talk and polite conversation has never been one of my strong points. Of course, people with Asperger's and autism when they're younger take things literally, although they tend to take things less literally as they get older, as long as they sort of know the meanings of things, like, don't bite my head off. It means don't have a go at me. But some people might take that a bit literally. Or, you know. But, yeah. And of course, I don't lose my temper or anything like to the same extent that I did, because when I was like very young and a teenager, I used to have meltdowns quite regularly, you know, because of my high functioning autism. I mean, of course, I very rarely have them now. Although sometimes, you know, I do have days where things just get too much for me and I have a lot of things going around in my head, which you know, can get a bit much for me sometimes. But of course, I normally phone my stepsister or my stepdad, you know, or Bernie, who used to work with me. And they're all really nice, caring people. And of course, I had a teacher's aide at school called Diane Ward as well, who I'm really good friends with still. I keep in touch with her. She was a lovely lady. She was very much like Bernie. She did everything she could to help me, and I'll always be grateful to her for that. Just like I'm so grateful towards Bernie for what she did, and also grateful towards my family for what they've done for me. Because without my friends and family, well, I don't think I'd be here right now. Things would have got too much for me, I think. And of course, my training that I do and all that keeps me, as well as keeping me in really good condition, it keeps my stress levels well down. Although, of course, we all have bad days, so, you know, it's part of life, isn't it? We have to deal with it. But, of course, people with autism have different ways of coping with things than neurotypical people as well. Of course, neurotypical people don't have meltdowns, but people with autism do. So, And of course, one thing, when I was a lot younger, I found it very hard to put my feelings into words as well. Of course, I don't have much trouble doing that now, but when I was younger I did, and that led to frustration as well, of course. Although people, my friends and family, were very supportive of me, accepting me for who I was, and and there's also a lot of people out there who are very judgmental. I mean, I'm not judgmental. People with Asperger's and autism are a lot less likely to be judgmental, basically because, well, they've got a condition themselves. So people who are different themselves, don't bother them. But, a lot of people are very judgmental these days, and some quite bigoted, But like I said, it's probably fear of the unknown, or, But you know what they say, don't judge a book by the cover, I mean, yes, I'm autistic, and yes, I am very blunt, and that may surprise or scare some people. But don't be scared of me, because, yeah, I'm a nice person. I don't bite much. No, I'm kidding. Seriously, I don't bite. So, so don't be scared of me. Although, of course, most people aren't used to dealing with people with autism, because only 1% of the population has autism, so, But yeah, we may do a lot of things differently. Basically, our brains are wired differently. That's the thing. Autism is not a disease. It just simply means our brains are wired differently to 99% of the population. There may be a loose connection somewhere, or a couple of connections that are connected differently. But, of course, that's it. I mean, autistic people are very gifted in certain areas and quite deficient in others, but they do a lot of things differently to neurotypical people as well. So, yeah. And of course, one thing, they have difficulty forming friendships and relationships as well. So that's part of the reason why I like being on my own. And, why I'm happier single, even though I did have a girlfriend who I did love, she just never understood me. And, so that's why I finished with her. And I don't regret it for 1 second either. Even though I am still friends with her, I don't regret finishing with her for a second. So, but anyway, oh, blimey, I've chatted for 13 minutes. Time goes so quick, doesn't it? Well, I'll probably chat for another couple of minutes, make it about 15 minutes long. So, yeah. That's right, so yeah. Neurotypical versus autism. I think I've probably filled you in a little bit about the differences between neurotypical people and autistic people, so you have a bit of a better understanding, about why, a lot of autistic people do the things the way they are, and right. Anyway, I don't think I can think of really much more to say, so I think I've covered most of what I want to cover. Of course, I'll upload some more videos in future, but for now I'll say, cheerio, goodbye, ta-ra, and I'll speak to you all again soon.